Hello.
Hello
Hello
from the Columbian Guild.
So the way that our accrued time off policy works is that we have our sick days, we have our vacation days, and we have our mandatory holidays all drawn from the same pot, and you have to accrue all of them. So functionally, what that means is that when I take an accrued day off on Memorial Day, which I am required to by company policy, I am essentially removing a day that I might need down the line for a sick day, which during a pandemic, when there's no other sick policy in place, is pretty concerning.
It just feels fundamentally wrong to have to burn accrued time off on holidays that the rest of the world gets, and we don't.
I took this job in part because I wanted to make the Pacific Northwest my home. When I was hired, I was under the impression that I would have enough days off to still visit my friends and family. I've had to make the decision I couldn't do that on several occasions so far. I'd still like this to be my home and continue reporting in the community, so I'd like to see this change.
When I started at the Columbian 8 years ago, at the end of June, I had to take the 4th of July off unpaid. I was a 21-year-old new grad at the time and could have really used the money.
This policy can create a lot of confusion when people fall ill and get sick and need to take medical leave or trying to plan their time off. And when this all falls into that same bucket with holidays that can come up and then you're required to take that PTO day, I think it can create a lot of confusion and lead people to having to take unpaid days.
We prepare stories for holidays all the time, which allow us to take the time off, so the paper is fed while we're gone. And I just think it's only right that we're allowed to get paid on those holidays, and that we get that PTO on those days off.
The Columbian's the first employer I've worked at that had this holiday policy. And when I started, I was frankly excited at what I thought was more PTO available than anywhere I'd worked previously. And when I learned about the holiday policy, it felt like kind of a bait and switch, frankly, where it turns out it was the same as I'd always had, only with the added logistical hurdle of doing all these calculations about whether it was okay to take the holidays that I thought I was going to get anyway.
Out of town for a family funeral, I learned that I needed to take sick time. And despite working Christmas a few months later, when I actually did get sick for a couple of days in January, I did have to take unpaid time because I had used up that sick time at a family funeral.
I've worked at the Columbian now for 5 years. I frequently work on holidays so that I can save these PTO hours. I've never worked at a company before where I've had to take time off or take my own earned benefit in order to take a day that should be relaxing and a time for me to spend with my family or just recovering from the extraordinarily difficult work we do.
I think this holiday policy causes not only confusion, but stresses people out more than they need to be. This is the only place that I've ever worked that has had this type of policy. And like many others here, I was also caught off guard when I started. I think if people want to have a healthy work-life balance, the Columbian's holiday policy isn't the way to go.